Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabe Kajura, but first are the headlines. Ugandan South African leaders urge greater trade in Africa. French court dismisses case against Total Energies E-Africa oil project. Nigeria's Bola Tinubu declared winner of presidential vote. Now, sports news today, we bring you how Uganda voted in for FIFA Football Awards. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories now. The President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has called for stronger trade relations among African countries and lamented the high cost of buying products and services outside the continent. Tuesday began a state visit to South Africa in a bid to encourage better economic ties between Uganda and Africa's most developed economy. He met with President Cyril Ramaphosa, accompanied by members of his cabinet, who were scheduled to meet with their South African counterparts and sign various trade and bilateral agreements. Making brief remarks ahead of the meeting with Ramaphosa, Museveni emphasized the importance of intracontinental trade while highlighting some of the challenges that are making this difficult to achieve. Among some of his priorities were the procurement of coal from South Africa to be used to transform Uganda's high-grade iron ore into steel. Museveni said it is important for the continent to be peaceful in order for intracontinental trade to be successful. Ramaphosa said that South Africa sees Uganda as an important partner in East Africa and lauded its contribution to regional economic and political integration, as well as regional peace and stability. Away from that, the Deputy Speaker of the Ugandan Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, has rallied developing countries to jointly reject what he described as unfair trade and deceitful practices orchestrated by the European Union against other countries. Our reporter Ahomoza has more.
Speaking at the Organization of the African, Caribbean and Pacific Parliamentary Conference happening in the Belgian capital Brussels, which is the headquarters of the European Union and NATO, Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa condemned the practice by European Union member states of exporting European Union banned pesticides and products to developing countries.
We are telling the European Union, be transparent. We are all human beings. We all have red blood. You don't have blue blood. And for us, we have red. The milk that can kill an European can kill an African. The pesticide that can cause a cancer to an European can cause cancer to a Caribbean. Why are you allowing dangerous products to be manufactured in your union and be exported to other countries for consumption? Stop it. That's what we are saying, that we speak as a team. But I'm really concerned, Madam President, that we can sit here on such a very dangerous item. We start saying we are sovereign, go and handle it independently.
Tayebwa, who led the Ugandan delegation to Brussels, said the developing countries do not have the capacity to take on the European Union independently, noting that speaking against this with one voice gives them an advantage.
Some of this milk comes in form of donations to poor countries, to poor children, to refugees, and it's coming from the European Union, what they cannot take. If you send it a refugee, someone who has nothing to eat, nothing to drink, how will you tell them about sovereignty? We don't even know how it comes. It comes through the UN system, and they are cleared directly.
He added that some of these poisonous products, such as milk, are sent by the European Union for children and refugees, saying most countries where European-made poisonous products are exported have no safety bodies to carry out their own tests.
Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right now. In international news, a French court on Tuesday dismissed a landmark case against Total Energies for a massive oil project in Uganda and Tanzania after several NGOs filed a suit to suspend the controversial project. We have more on this report.
6 NGOs that filed a suit against the development of the East African crude pipeline failed to adhere to a duty of vigilance, a 2017 law that compels companies to avoid grave harm to human rights, health, safety and the environment. The court on Tuesday ruled that the case was inadmissible, saying the plaintiffs did not correctly follow court procedures against the French energy giant. It said the plaintiffs submitted accounts to the court in December that were substantially different from those that were presented to Total Energies in a formal notice in 2019 when the case was initiated. The suit was brought by 2 French and 4 Ugandan NGOs which accused Total Energies of taking land from more than 100,000 people without adequate compensation. They also say that the company drilled wells in the biodiversity-rich Murchison Falls National Park on the shores of Lake Albert. The $10 billion oil fields and pipeline project has been hailed as an economic boom for Uganda and Tanzania, where many live in poverty while being strongly opposed by environmentalists. The project is being jointly developed by Total Energies and the China National Offshore Oil Corporation, along with the state-owned Uganda National Oil Company. Tuesday's ruling in France is the first instance of the duty of vigilance being tested in a courtroom.
More of our international news, ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu was declared winner of the Nigeria's presidential election early on Wednesday and soon after thanked his supporters and appealed to his rivals who are already demanding a revolt in Africa's most populous nation. The announcement by election officials overnight was likely to lead a court challenge by the second and third highest finishers in the weekend vote, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi. Abubakar also finished second in the last vote in 2019, then appealed those results before his lawsuit ultimately was dismissed. Tinubu's ruling All Progressives Congress party urged the opposition to accept defeat on Tuesday and not cause trouble after they had demanded a revolt, saying that delays in uploading election results had made room for irregularities. Tinubu received 37% of the vote, or nearly 8.8 million, while main opposition candidate Abubakar won 29% with almost 7 million. Third place finisher Obi took 25% with about 6.1 million, according to the results announced on live television by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The president-elect thanked his supporters in the capital Abuja after his victory was announced and struck a reconciliatory tone in a message directed at these political adversaries. Tinubu, who is 70, is the former government of Lagos State, home to Nigeria's megacity of the same name. However, he lost the state in Saturday's election to Obi, who drew a strong following among younger voters eager for change. Thank you so much, reporter. Moving on, residents in the economic capital of the Ivory Coast react to the announcement by the French President Emmanuel Macron that French government will reduce the number of troops in Africa.
French President Emmanuel Macron was speaking in Paris ahead of a 4-nation tour of Central African countries from Wednesday as France seeks to counter growing Chinese and Russian influence in the region. Macron made the announcement on Monday of a noticeable reduction of French troops' presence in Africa, where anti-Africa resentment is running high in some former colonies. Eugene Mayer, a sanitation officer, said the news is a welcome idea. According to Mark Eber, student, the reduction of French troops in Africa, and especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is a positive initiative because it will allow these countries to be autonomous on a military level and on a political and economic level. Some welcome the news, while others are aware of the reduced international military support. Macron is to visit Gabon for an environmental summit, followed by Angola, then the Republic of Congo or Congo-Brazzaville, and finally the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Paris has fallen out with the new military authorities in Mali and Burkina Faso, withdrawing its troops from both former French colonies after years helping the authorities as they battle jihadists.
Apart from that, proposed changes to Mali's constitution would bolster the president's power and reduce the status of the French language. Now, that's according to a revised draft of the document, which was handed to the country's transitional president, Kanu Assimi Goita, on Monday. The proposed new constitution is a key element of the vast reform project it initiated to ensure a return to civilian rule following an election it says will be held in February 2024. While it is yet to be officially published, a copy seen by the AFP news agency say that the head of state, not the government, will determine the policies of the nation. If approved, the president would also be responsible for appointing and firing the prime minister and government ministers and be empowered to dissolve the National Assembly. Proposing laws will be the prerogative of the president and National Assembly, whereas this was previously the right of the government and MPs. A president will be elected for 5 years and be limited to 2 terms in office. Constitutional change is one of a string of major institutional revamps launched by the military after it ousted Mali's last elected president in August 2020. While the new draft also describes carrying out a coup d'etat as an offense for which there is no time limit for prosecution, those involved in the 2020 takeover would be covered by an amnesty. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with business, health and sports. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right channel. Talking matters business, over 1,000 Kenyan traders protested in the capital Nairobi on Tuesday against Chinese traders. Now, China is Africa's top trading partner, and more than 1 million Chinese are estimated to reside on the continent.
The demo comes in a wake of controversy, cited by the coming of China Square retail outlet of general merchandise whose prices are on average 45% lower than those prevailing in locally owned enterprises, local media reports. Kenya's relationship with China was in focus during the last year's presidential election won by William Ruto. Ruto promised to publish government contracts with China agreed upon under his predecessor and to deport Chinese nationals working illegally. Dressed in dust coats used in their retail outlets, the traders marched to the office of the deputy president and to parliament to submit a petition against the Chinese retailers. Trade Minister Moses Kuria has offered to take over Chinese Square's lease from its Chinese owner and hand it to local traders, but Corey Singora, the principal secretary at Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, stressed on Twitter that all investors are welcome, irrespective of their nationality.
In our health news today, Parliament has granted leave to Bujiri Municipality Member of Parliament Honorable Asman Basalira to introduce a private member's bill titled the Anti-Homosexuality Bill 2023. The House granted the MP leave on Tuesday, 28 February 2023, after it returned from a 3-week recess where legislators monitored the progress of parish development model. The bill seeks to prohibit any form of sexual relations between persons of the same sex and prohibit the promotion or recognition of such relations. While moving the motion, Basalirwa observed the Parliament passed the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2014 on 20th December 2013, which was nullified by the Constitutional Court, citing lack of necessary quorum of lawmakers to vote on the bill. Basalirwa described homosexuality as a cancer eating up the world and urged legislators to join in ensuring the establishment of a law to curb it. While chairing the House, the Speaker, Anita Among, reiterated a call to MPs to stand firm and vote for a law that will act against the vice, which she said is a threat to society. Honorable Charles Onen of Laro Division cited Vision Uganda 2040 that has a goal to ensure Uganda has a healthy and productive population which is at risk of homosexuality. Honorable Sarah Pendi of Toro District called on law enforcement agencies, including Uganda Police and NGO Board, to ensure apprehension of perpetrators. In a sports news today, Lionel Messi was crowned FIFA Best Male Player of the Year 2022 on Monday after helping Argentina lift the World Cup in Qatar.
The PSG star garnered the biggest number of votes to beat France's Kylian Mbappe and his fellow Frenchman Karim Benzema by remiling an award decided by head coaches and captains of various national teams, as well as selected media personnel. Uganda's Molitin Michos Radejovic voted for Messi, Benzema and Senegal's Sadio Mane, in that order, with the captain Emmanuel Okwi going for Messi, Mbappe and Mane. Stephen Mayamba, who voted on behalf of media in the men's category, went for Messi, Mane and Benzema. For the best coach, both Mitch and Okwi agreed on Morocco's Walid Regragui, Real Madrid's Carlo Ancelotti, and Argentina World Cup winning coach Lionel Scaloni, the eventual award winner. However, the order of preference differed despite all, including Stephen Mayamba maintaining the trio. In the best goalkeeper category, the three also went for the same choices, albeit in different order: Yassine Bahoun of Morocco, Emiliano Martinez of Argentina, and Thibaut Courtois of Belgium. George Lutalo, Ruth Atulo, and Mark Nanyama voted in the women's categories.
Thank you so much, reporter. It is at this particular time that I thank you for joining us and always being part of us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We should keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the bright to know.